Hey, welcome to this week's episode of Power Talks. My name is Griffin Lickfeld, the host of the Citizen Developer channel. Today I'm joined by special guest Hunter White. Hunter, thanks man for being here. We have been chit-chatting for like over 30 minutes at this point. We're like, dude, we got to get on this recording. Let's go. So here we are. I wanted to start the conversation off. There are so many, like a lot of the Power Platform and conference and Microsoft Ignite just wrapped up in the past couple weeks, and an insane amount of announcements and things that people need to go look into and research. I want to ask you, how was the Power Platform conference, and what were some major things that stuck out to you?
I would say it's one of my better conferences I've attended. I've attended the Power Platform Community Conference twice now, and this one was a lot different than the first. I went to the one in 2023, so I skipped over 2024 and went to this one. And then I would say the biggest takeaway is, Charles Lamont obviously said low code is dead. Everybody said that on LinkedIn as well. But I would say the biggest thing is, for me, it's the long-term view of what these changes mean. So when we think about the vibe coding, the power apps that you can now create with natural language, yes, we see that everything's being like this AI first approach. And it is going to change the game ultimately, right? The paradigm has definitely shifted, if not still shifting. But the way that we support those apps is like the top of mind right now for me. Like, okay, this is great. We can make proof of concepts really quickly. And things like Copilot Studio having code interpreter and all these great things, like it can definitely get us a lot faster to that MVP or POC. But is there going to be something coming that's going to help us support these kinds of apps? Because like I don't know React or TypeScript.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, in fact, like citizen developers at our company, they don't know those languages. So how is that going to change the game? And is it going to be supported, or is this just something we're going to have in our back pocket that's going to allow us to get to the POC faster?
Yeah.
But other than that, I'd say the other takeaway is Canvas versus model-driven app. My favorite thing about it is I used to always build Canvas apps. I am getting more into the model-driven apps because, for one, it's quicker, and two, a lot of the AI features are being delivered straight to model-driven apps and not really to Canvas apps. So to me, that was a game changer. I was like, all right, we got to change. We got to change the importance level here. Like, is this something that's just purely a data model that could just be visualized, or is there more to it? Is there some barcode scanning? Is there some other things that we need to implement that have to be a Canvas app? So
Yeah.
those are the big takeaways for me. I didn't go to Ignite. You went to Ignite though. Like I'm sure there was a lot more. That's usually their flagship conference. Like that's what we hear.
There was a lot. I will talk about Ignite. I want to talk about what you're saying though first. So I first want to say to anybody listening, these announcements were just announcements, right? Like, and some of them are, public preview, and some are GA, but like Canvas apps, low code tools are not dead at this point in time, right? Like, there's
Right.
definitely still like a time horizon, a life cycle here that, but there's not, so like, just know, like, it's okay. You don't have to find a job tomorrow or anything like that. But I think what you're saying, Hunter, is important to understand, and something that, we all are kind of learning, is that the skills that make citizen developers valuable seem to be shifting, over the next
Right.
6 months to 5 years are going to shift in some way, shape, or form. And I think what you're saying is a great point, in that, like, the actual person who's, has a knack for making a Canvas app really pretty might not be such a valuable skill as somebody who, like, really understands, like, governance and data loss prevention policies or something. You know what I mean? Like those are the things that are only going to become more elevated. Some of these kind of like admin or governance and observability, or like application lifecycle management, like those sort of things, I feel like
Yeah.
are only going to
Deployments.
come up in importance. And the things like oh, I really understand, galleries and Canvas apps or something, like something different. And it's funny too what you're saying. So I was first introduced to the Power Platform through Dynamics. So for the large majority of the beginning of my career, I was customizing Dynamics for companies with model driven apps, with Power Apps. And so I had very little, if any, Canvas app experience. And like, I don't know, I swear by model driven apps. I think the Power Apps community sleeps on them, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't really
totally.
care for Canvas apps just because I don't have that experience with them. But I do think something that, to your point of like, it feels like there's more features coming to model driven apps and not many to Canvas apps. And I think it is because, that it's secretly being sunset, right? Like all the resources I feel like that we're going into building out the Canvas app platform are now on like Microsoft Foundry and Copilot Studio platforms. You know what I mean? Like it's just the resources have shifted a little bit. How was that experience and like understanding that at the Power Platform conference?
I think what's for me, like we interface with some of the leaders, right? And a lot of times it's about like when are we going to get access to this stuff? When are we going to roll this out to everybody? And there is that governance stuff to really keep in mind because I mean it's a step-by-step process, right? We never want to just I mean, when's the last time we ever just deployed an application first try, like right, like zero testing, just get it out there. It's not common that way, and I think the Microsoft playbook, when you think about a SaaS playbook, they definitely want adoption, right? And it's important, we get it, but I think there's a time and there's a place. Hence why we have preview, right? General availability, those things they matter, right? And and I just think that there's this game to be played. It's not my favorite game. and and the game is that, are we gonna be getting away from intentionality and getting just over to speed, right? Like I get it, these things are becoming faster, but is it about speed or to me it's intentionality. Are we gonna go with the right intentions to deploy something? Are we going to solve this problem the right way? Because that's how app sprawl happens. That's how Excel hell 2.0 happens. And now we're getting into agent sprawl potentially, right? So everybody wants AI, but when we sit down with them and we're like, okay, that's a great use case. What are you trying to solve? And they're like, well, I just need this to automatically look at email notifications and then just do this. And I'm like, that's a fancy automation. It's not really an agent yet. So these things are really cool, and I think it's about getting that intention down first, right? Before we really build, because the building is quicker. Let's save that before we get into that. Let's really design thinking this stuff out. Let's go through those design thinking sessions, and then let's really plan and figure out what are the requirements. What are we really trying to solve before we just start building.
Yeah, definitely. And
So
I will say that was all Ignite was about, was agents. And I mean, maybe I'm a part of the problem here because I have subscribed my content and my personal brand to agentification. All right. Like that. So sure. You guys can rat me out in the comments or whatever, but like I, something that is interesting is Microsoft is selling this stuff as like, dude, this will, like they're trying to drive adoption, they're trying to sell licenses, they're trying to, whatever. And something that just kind of like a principle or a concept that really stuck out to me is it does almost feel like from what they're communicating that flows are just going to be agents at this point. Like if you have a flow that does something, agent it. You know what I mean? Like change it to an agent.
right.
Was kind of
Yeah.
just like this like overarching concept or theme, and that's something that I try to tell people as well. Like agents pretty soon and honestly right now are not just becoming like the chat GPT or the Copilot that you talk to, or like the thing in your OneNote or in your Outlook that's like, hey, draft this email. Like agents are becoming autonomous, meaning they're like completely uninteracted with people, where it's like, and if you look in Copilot Studio, you can define triggers and actions. Like, how fundamentally the same is that to flow? You know what I mean? Like, so really just kind of thinking about the fact that agents are not a completely new concept. It's really just like, this happens, do this. But the thing that does make them cool, I'm not just saying go, bill a bunch of clients to change your flows to agents. What does make them cool though is, flows need specific inputs and have specific syntax, and if something's not accounted for, it throws an error and it fails and everything stops, and like they're very like rigid. They're very rigid. They're very deterministic is the word that was used at Ignite. And I was like, what does that even mean? It doesn't even make sense. At least to me at the time. Like, they're very deterministic. Where agents and you can manage it so it's not necessarily in a bad way, but have a lot more of that undeterministic capabilities, where it's
Right.
like, okay, you had a typo in this, or okay, I'm looking in Dataverse, I don't see a record based off of this name, but this word is in the description of this account. Is this what you talked about? Like, and having some of that undeterministic capabilities, but fundamentally doing the same thing. Go ahead.
I will say my favorite part about what you said is that we do need that undeterministic ability. Um, I used to work at a company very small, and it was a retail distribution company. We set up a lot. We had a lot of legacy systems, and so we use a lot of that Power Automate desktop stuff, right? And one thing changes, right, and your flow breaks, right? If you had to do significantly like bulk air handling to really like account for any of the weird pop-ups that might come up, right? And at the conference, I love that. I want to say from the PowerCat team, I think his name is Remy. I can't remember his last name, Remy Dijon or something. He's really, really cool with this stuff. He showed us computer use. I think it was him that showed us the computer use feature. And this is the game changer for me. Having been through that and had like 40 RPA flows running on a monthly basis, and my life was gone.
Yeah.
This was the game changer when he said, "Yeah, we can now have computer use as a feature where an agent is running the show, and you're recording yourself doing a task on a legacy system or the browser." And he actually demoed this, and he had the agent like go access an Excel workbook and type in the data for some invoices or something, and the agent opened up some random dialog box, and he was like, "All right, first of all, I did not program it to do this. And this is not supposed to happen, but I'm going to leave it. Just see what happens." Honestly, part of me is like, was this staged or what? Like, what was going on here? Because what ended up happening was the agent went back through the instructions and was like, all right, we need Excel. This is clearly not Excel. And it closed the dialog and reopened Excel and kept going, right? Whereas, the traditional RPA would have failed. Like, would not have continued because it doesn't know what that dialog box is, whereas the agent looked at it and determined that it was just informational. There was no need to treat it like it was a significant error or something that was going to stop them from continuing on. So that was the game changer for me. I thought that was an amazing feature
Yeah.
that I'm really looking forward to trying this out.
They talked a little bit about. I didn't sit in any labs or anything that talked about computer use in Copilot Studio, and in full transparency, I have not set up other computer use cases or different things before, so I don't personally have a ton of experience with it. But it does sound like it's a pretty exciting, kind of game changer in that, especially as we talk about like making it even more low code, and just, okay, do this, then click here, then click here, then click here, instead of trying to outline that in prompts or in instructions or different things like that. So it is super cool. And to your question about Ignite, like something that, I don't know, if I were to try to like boil down what I took away from Ignite, because Ignite is much bigger than the Power Platform, and it's everything. But like something that I took away from it largely was that, and people have talked about it, like Copilot and agent adoption is pretty low, especially at like the enterprise level, because it's scary, and a lot of companies are just like, I'd rather
Walk
just be
everyone.
risk averse than the 5% boost that it might give us, Um, and so due to that risk aversion, and the main risk aversion is because of, what we're calling governance and observability, or like being able to see who is talking to what agents are on, what are those agents talking to, what are they giving back, who can access them, all the things that you would want to see from an organization. And like I would think, at least from my experience, that would be the single biggest pushback from organizations and enterprises as far as why they aren't adopting. And it felt like even in like the main keynote of the Ignite conference, like they were trying to directly address and announce tools that directly address that argument. And so then that way organizations, assuming this stuff was all GA and, there and whatnot, like that, okay, you can no longer have that objection because of this, and this. And that was pretty cool to see. And like honestly are just fundamentally necessary tools, because there are ways to see all of the apps in your tenant. There are ways to see all of the flows and all of the connections in your tenants. But there really wasn't a way to see all of your agents and everything that those agents are talking to, and who has access to each agent, and all of these other things. And so that was pretty cool to sit in on and try to like soak up as much as I could, was like the agent observability pieces. And not just like Copilot Studio agents, but M365 agents, Copilot Studio agents, Microsoft Foundry agents, this suite as a whole. If you are liking the conversation, be sure to let me know by liking the video and commenting down below what it is specifically you are getting out of it. And if you are interested in learning more about the Microsoft Power Platform, you're going to want to click on the first link down in the description down below to get access to a beginner's Power Platform guide led by me. This is a completely free, self-paced course that has hand-picked knowledge, everything that you need to know to be able to go and get your first Microsoft certification as soon as possible. The reality is not a lot of people can say they love what they do, and I feel very blessed to be able to say that I enjoy what I do for work as a Microsoft consultant. And if you want to start that journey alongside me today, be sure to follow and click on the first link down in the description down below. Now let's get back to the conversation.
The agent framework, or the Agent 365. In fact, I actually logged in today. We had a discussion about it. It was really cool, and I like where they're headed with it, because oftentimes they don't address the governance and the observability. They don't lead with that. It's usually just, here's the cool new feature, right? And we'll tackle the governance later.
Yeah.
And so this was really cool. I think in the keynote that they shared that's really cool that they quickly understood the adoption was getting capped,
Yeah.
right? And so how do we help them understand that this is not something you need to worry about? We can give you that governance stuff. The inventory piece, I'd say, is the next cool thing that they released. Not because it's that observability piece per se, but because of what it means long term for the COE. If you've ever dealt with Center of Excellence or have had to install it for a company, it's not that fun to maintain, to say like a better word. But it was early on the only thing we could use to get that visibility in a decent way. But when it came to the the enterprises that were thousands of inventory items, your flows, your things would time out, and your COE would not exactly cover everything, right? So what I'm really looking forward to, and I had a conversation with like Phil Topness and Manuela, who created the COE way back when, and at the conference, this is not official news, by the way. They are just letting you know that it is not going to be supported long term. They are doing things to bring in that inventory. Inventory is just the first start. They are bringing inventory and the other benefits that COE provides to the Power Platform Admin Center. So this will no longer be we got to run a flow to get all this, to go sprawl the entire tenant, right? It's going to be API driven. It's going to be a lot faster. There's actually a video that Daniel Christian puts out too, and he goes through the little walkthrough about it. And he shows how quick it is because it's API driven. He created something like some sort of an agent or something, and immediately, like it was like 15-second delay. It's what it seems like. In the documentation, I think they say like an hour or something, but it's actually pretty quick. So I'm really excited for that. I think that's going to make the job on our admins a little bit easier and help us sleep better at night, knowing that we're not hitting some flow limit for how many apps and flows we got going on and agents now. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna
Definitely.
be
I
cool.
think something that was cool too. So, yeah, that agent registry, like you're saying, where it just lists
Yeah,
out all of those agents. And then it also talks about some of the features. One thing that they showed was, and I couldn't really find a ton of information on it, but it was kind of like a map, like a heat map, um, where it was like bundles of agents based off of like what they were connected to and like the purpose that they serve.
the services.
And
Yeah,
so like that was pretty cool too. So you can kind of see it like, okay, we have a whole bunch of agents that maybe are, touching these sort of things, but like we don't have any that are touching this and this, maybe there's a need for some more agents or whatever, whatever. Like this could be kind of cool to digest that information from there. Another thing was, and like I said, there's so much content, but like another thing was there's basically like uh, a kill switch in there for any agent as well. So like if for whatever reason like something is a threat or whatever, like in Agent 365, like there's it shuts it
just
down for
stop it.
everybody across any or all the entire organization or whatever. That was pretty cool. Also being able to manage like what they call like orphaned agents, so ones that where the owner maybe their account isn't in the tenant anymore or whatever. Being able to manage that and the connections and different things. So
Very
definitely
common
some
use
cool
case.
stuff there, and as well as like um, from and I mean I'm not really in the Foundry world. I definitely lean pretty heavily into the Copilot Studio, Power Platform, low code world, but like even like so your agents that are built in Azure AI Foundry or now Microsoft Foundry generally have some more capabilities and they're more pro code and you can have more customizations and things around that. But even like some of the same features and observability that are coming to those as well, and they call it the control pane or the control plane or
Yeah,
something like that. Um, that has a lot of those same features. It looks a little different. It's not in the Power Platform Admin Center, or anything like that. But like, um, but they have that, and then they also have this thing called a compliance profile for Foundry, and basically you can upload like government or industry regulation documents. So go to your national government's website and download the 200-page PDF about whatever, and then there's an agent in there in this compliance, what's it called, compliance manager or something, I don't remember. Yeah, compliance manager probably.
okay.
And an agent can read that information and then digest and outline like, okay, you need to be in accordance with this and with this and with this, and give you tasks that need to be done for each of those things as well. And you can assign those tasks out and people can mark those tasks as complete. And so it's kind of just like, I was talking to somebody, it doesn't sound like at this point those tasks like really go anywhere. They're kind of just like check boxes. It's not like if you hit like enable in the on this thing, it like goes and disables and enables all these connections or something. Like it doesn't necessarily like
But maybe
connect
soon.
at this point in time. um but like nonetheless is a place to kind of track like, okay, are we compliant with like our industry in this country, in this country, and in this country, and having all of that
It's
instead of
different.
having to
Yeah.
like read these huge legal documents.
Yeah.
And everything
Yeah,
there. So
GDPR, you may have those kinds of things. Those are very real things. And I'm glad that you mentioned that because I had not heard about Compliance Manager yet. That's really eye-opening. There's a lot around that kind of stuff happening right now. I'm not sure if you've heard of Cloud Lighthouse. Andrew and Anna
Oh,
Welch,
yes,
along
yes.
with Chris Huttonford and Mark Smith. They are kind of the lighthouse keepers, I would call
Yeah.
them. Anyway, I love some of the white papers that are produced out of there. I think it's remarkable content around the responsible use of AI. And one of the things they recently posted about this on LinkedIn. Um, by the way, if you haven't gotten it by this far into the call, I only have LinkedIn. It's kind of my like doom scrolling, if you will. It's just learning. But anyway, I remember seeing a graphic from them, and to them, they said this is just another day. But the results were pretty staggering to see that like there was a company that reported 4.5 million% ROI because of agentic use. There was another company that reported a $400 million loss in a few days
Hmm.
because they lacked the governance guardrails. They didn't go through this kind of setup. They just took it and ran with it, right? And I I love that they included both sides of the spectrum, right? Those who are winning and those who are losing, right? Because they're getting burned by it, right? And I think it's a really good thing to show that that's the importance of it, right? Governance is great, not so that you can protect from $400 million losses in a couple days, but it's so that you can run with scale and achieve that 4.5 million% ROI.
Yeah.
So that to me was a game changer with like how you should be thinking about the responsible use of AI. It's not merely just testing your prompts to make sure they work.
Yeah.
There's a lot more upstream compliance things that should be done and planned before the build phase even gets talked about.
Yeah. Definitely,
So,
definitely. What do you feel like in light of all that and everything we talked about and all the updates that have been announced? What do you feel like people should be focusing on to best prepare themselves and maybe their skills for the next 5 years?
well, would you say are you referring to people who are already in Power Platform or maybe just
Yeah,
everybody in
let's
general?
say, let me say this. What are you focusing on learning and preparing so that you are more prepared to be great at what you do for the next 5 years?
So I think the the value that comes from um, solution architects and even really good developers and distinguished engineers as they might be called. I think it's trying to have that crystal ball mentality that things can change and that things will change, and um, doing things responsibly, huge one. I think often the power platform especially is this low code, speedy mentality that we can get to deployment really quickly, minutes, right? And that's compared to the old traditional software development lifecycle. That's that's remarkable. We're in a different era here. But with that should come additional time spent on testing and governance and planning. And that's I don't think Microsoft ever intended for like low code doesn't mean low discipline. I don't think it ever set out to be that way. I think they were trying this whole time to get us quicker past the development and the stuff that really took a bulk of the work, right? Um, and I think I once heard this great thing. I attended a training from Chris Huntingford, and it was you use the 40-20-40 rule, and it was 40% should be spent on planning, designing, really getting what the goal is out in front, and then having 20% be the build phase, because that's how long it would take right now, right? Copilot Studio, it's fast, and then the other 40% should be red teaming, making sure you can't break your agent, right? Making sure there's prompts that are not going to expose certain data elements that should not be exposed to that user, right? It's that mentality of okay, we've saved a lot of time in the build. Now let's reinvest that time where it should go appropriately to making sure this is going to scale, it's going to be supportable, and it's going to be accurate. I mean, I've been hearing some of these things where sometimes people are testing their prompts in the studio and then they deploy to teams and they get a totally different behavior, right? And I think that's because there's not enough testing being done. So another feature that I saw come out recently was the evaluation tab inside of Copilot Studio. Love it. Absolutely love it. I think they killed it with that because that was the piece that was missing in my mind's eye. Was you would get there and the testing was dependent on you. You had to custom prompt it and try to come up with things on the fly. And now we've got this evaluation tab that you can click, generate 10 questions, and it's contextually creating those questions that people would ask your agent, right? And then evaluate, and then a couple minutes later it tells you which one's passed, which one failed, and then you can iterate, right? And you can keep going and going and going. And I just think that's the piece that has been missing since they started Copilot Studio.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
No, that totally answers my question. So it's funny you say that. So was sitting in sessions at Ignite, and they start talking about these things called evaluations. And I was like, all right, I'm a Copilot Studio MVP. I need to get some stuff out about this like ASAP. Like if it's literally, it's like in my job. Like I got to do it. All right. And so I like sat down at the hotel and recorded a little video. And so yeah, the background, I don't have the crispy lighting, the background's a little different, whatever. But hey, we got the video out like that week and was just talking about it. And yeah, you can basically just define as many prompts or questions that you want it to send. And then you can also say, hey, grade this prompt on a series of different criteria or scale. And so I don't necessarily remember them all off the top of my head, but you can like grade the AI's response on like correctness, just like generally, or you can say like, hey, did it return an exact value or like whatever, you can define all sorts of different things. And you can, I don't necessarily know if there's a limit of how many prompts you can send in one evaluation. I didn't necessarily test that, but there's not a limit to the amount of evaluations you can do. And so like I had heard, and I didn't necessarily see how this was possible in there, or maybe you could set it up through a Power Automate and have like a certain action that goes and does this, but like setting up scheduled evaluations. So then like every day you run an evaluation of 100 prompts, and say the model changes or whatever, like there's something external or something that you're connected to changes or whatever, the score, you could see the impact of that score. And I think the idea is maybe that's set up in Agent 365 or whatever. But like, go ahead.
Yeah, the landscape's definitely changing, but I've seen people do that similar. I think Val from powertricks.io, he created a little article about this where he's using Power Platform pipelines and the Copilot Studio Kit. And I think he's got it to where anytime it's like unbound actions, so you got to be a little bit learned about how unbound actions work in Dataverse. And basically when a new agent's created, and they try to deploy it, right, there's a step in there that it recognizes and then it triggers through the pipeline to go do evaluations, to go run it up against some documentation that meets the organization's specific compliance standards, things like that. It's all changing, right? Because you mentioned compliance manager. There's going to be some other things in Agent 365 in the admin center. It's all changing, but I think we're going to get there eventually, right? To have automatic evaluations so that this is respective of citizen developers' speed, right? Wanting to change things quickly, but it's also like let's go to deployment quickly because we've got these evaluations running in tandem,
Yeah.
So I think it'd be really cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I'm excited about it. And you said the word red teaming. You said that. I don't know. I just must live under a rock. I'm a big hoax. All right. I had never really heard of this term before. Like, but there were like people were saying it at Ignite. Like, I was like,
yeah,
what is red teaming? Like, all right. And
you're not a hoax.
I don't know if it was related, but like then I think there was like a booth that was talking about red teaming that was like giving out all these red fedoras. So then like people were walking around with these like red fedoras at like one of the days at Ignite. I don't know if anybody's there and like can attest and validate that happened.
It's hilarious.
But yeah, like that was like a thing. And I was like, I don't know what red teaming it is. I'll figure it out later, whatever.
So from my understanding, it's a cybersecurity term. I could be wrong, but from my understanding, what I was taught is that there's red teams and there's blue teams. And it's defense and offense, right, for cybersecurity. And I actually first learned about this because of, I think it was the Australian government. At some point, there was an article that came out that the Australian government kept hearing about hackers, so people that were on the offense, right, hacking, unethically hacking into people's servers to get private information and expose it, things like that. And I remember hearing the government say something around like, we're going to start having our own red team. We're going to fight back. And it was basically like saying, we're not going to follow the law we wrote. We're going to start fighting back. And I was actually kind of like, I got pumped for it. I was like, this is cool. Like, this is how it should be sometimes, because hackers, like, they don't follow the rules, and sometimes, not saying it's the best example for the government to do it, but if you can't seem to beat them with your own blue team, maybe you got to get a red team.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's, to me, Chris Huntingford said this a lot in his training as well. The red teaming is trying to break it, right? Trying to see if you can get past the criteria of protecting the data, right? And I think it's really more toward the agents that have to deal with public facing, like customer agents, on the website, the chatbots you can interface with, making sure that you only can get to your data as the signed in user and not somebody else's data. Just because you might say something a certain way, I mean, if some other customers exist or something, try saying it like, hey, what is this customer's balance, right? Like, if it circumvents it, then you've got a problem and you've got to fix it.
Yeah.
But that to me is what red teaming is.
Totally. And so, to your point, I do think that is the easier use case for sure. Like external facing things that are on websites, things where people can look up estimated delivery dates for their tracking or whatever. But also like internal agents as well, making sure people can't access like payroll information or
HR data.
something. Yeah.
Sure.
And something that is cool that I do, I'll give props to Microsoft. Like the whole Copilot agent framework is built on top of security measures like Entra ID and Defender and Purview, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that that are being added to those tools or platforms or whatever you want to call them to help support agents. But like something that is cool, and we go back to like that deterministic or undeterministic principle, is like, say there's information that we'll use the external facing thing and they want to get shipping information about their orders or balances, about their outstanding balance. Like that may be a scenario where you want to connect to that data through a more deterministic approach, like a Power Automate flow, as opposed to, I don't know how many people are familiar with MCPs or whatever. I'm not a technical guy. Don't ask me to explain what MCP is in simple terms, but MCPs are much less deterministic in that they might be able to talk and touch other things through malicious prompts and whatnot. And so the idea is then, okay, say, do we even need to connect to this for this agent? Okay, if not, then don't connect to it, right? And then you don't have to worry about that loss. But if if the purpose of the agent is to say connect to something, trying to use the sliding scale of ways to do that, and finding what fits your approach better.
I agree with you. I definitely think there's a hybrid approach to act as the common use case. At least for me, I've seen some teams that deal with like severe, like automations have to be consistent, right? But they also need some prompting to help them create the content so that they're saving a lot of time, right? At the end of the day, the team ends up reviewing this information regardless. So having this hybrid approach of a deterministic Power Automate workflow that uses custom prompts throughout the middle of the workflow or to do certain things, I think it's a really good way to start because you get the benefits of both worlds. You get a consistent process every time. The only thing that's different that you need to be different, right, is the content, right? So and that's I think it's a great way to start for people who are new to the Copilot Studio stuff because yes, like model context protocol servers are really cool. Is the coolest thing I've been able to dabble with. And I'm like you, I'm not like an MCP creator. I haven't done that yet. But I will say there are some really cool things to see with like the Dataverse MCP server, the email management MCP server, meeting management MCP servers. But you just got to make sure you turn off the certain settings that say create new tables in Dataverse. I'm not sure anybody's looking to create tables, right? But that's a default setting is it turns everything on, and you should go back through and be like, nope, I just want to be able to query and read and write maybe some data, but
Yeah,
that's it, right? No deleting,
definitely.
no adding
Quick
tables.
disclaimer, MCPs are in preview, all right? Do not
Yeah.
use, and Microsoft says it themselves, like MCPs are not production ready, but super cool tech and yeah, and could be pretty sweet. So
Thank you for that caveat.
yeah, yeah,
I love it.
absolutely. At the time of recording, all right, this is not professional advice. Seek your lawyer, an actual Power Platform professional, not us two bozos. Don't seek us. So, okay, sweet man. Hunter man, we're about at time. I thank you so much for being here, but we do have our after hours happy hour segment of the show. I feel like we could just yap for forever. You feel like you seem like you're one of the boys, you know. But like when I was asking you like who's Hunter a little bit outside of work and whatever, you mentioned back in the heyday, video game Call of Duty player sounds like for sure. Otherwise now you're just a boring family man, you know, same
I'm a
old.
board fan, man. Yeah. I used to play Call of Duty quite a bit. I loved playing games. I play some Battlefield here and there. But yeah, a lot of my time, I had to learn this thing about sacrifice and really understanding that there are priorities in life, right? And I wanted to go after those things that have lasting value. And so you getting married, starting a family, those kinds of things, and the company I work for definitely helps me do that. I don't think it's something that all companies can do for you sometimes, and I had to make the jump because it was worth it to me, you
Yeah.
know. And so yeah, but that's and then I like Taco Bell, I like Dr. Pepper, you know, that's me. When I have a Dr. Pepper open, that means it's a Monday.
What's the go-to Taco Bell order? Mine's a chicken quesadilla for sure, undoubtedly.
No, so I do like, that's a really good one. I would say mine is the shredded chicken burrito. Like it's now been renamed. It's like the cheesy bean and rice burrito. Every time I get there, they hate me because I'm always modifying the order. I'm like, take out the beans, put a chicken in there, put some avocado ranch, whatever. But Baja Blast Freeze is a must.
There you
Like,
go.
have to have
I
it.
feel like I
Go during
remember when they
happy hour.
brought that out. Like, was that around the same time they started doing breakfast too? I don't know.
Yeah,
Back in
I
like
think so.
2017, 2016 or something when they brought that out. So, oh my goodness.
Yeah, now they've got tons of Baja Blast flavors that
Yeah,
I think are weird, but
the average health of the American has gone down since the Baja Blast freeze, for sure. The people in the UK listening to this are like, what are they talking about? Oh my
what are
goodness.
they
Yeah.
doing?
We just,
Well, for the
we,
people in the UK, just so you know, it's like Chicken George next level. Okay? It doesn't compare, actually. I'm just kidding. It's not Chicken George. Yeah, for those like James Connolly and John Russell and all them,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not Chicken George.
Yeah.
That's Raising Cane's.
and Baja Blast is like jet fuel, basically. All right, that's what it is. It's but no, that's so funny, man. But it's funny. Okay, real quick, it's funny you say that. So I definitely loved my fair share of video games as well. Played all through, all growing up, all the way through college, and then it kind of was just like I kind of knew like that door was coming to an end. So then like I was playing Call like the kind of the when I knew that door was closing and like kind of the new Call of Duty came out, hit it hard, me and the boys, and it was like sunk way too much time into it, whatever. And it was because I was getting like married that next summer, and I was like, all right, I am sinking six. Okay, okay, don't who knows? I don't remember the release date, so who knows? Nobody knows how whatever. But when that Call of Duty came out, I literally played all night. I did an all nighter, and then like low key slept through the next day. But nobody knows when it came out, so nobody knows when that poor day of work was. So my previous employer could not hold that against me. But I was there. All
And,
right.
and just to clarify, just so that nobody gets the wrong idea about what I said earlier about sacrifice, when I got married, I was not implying that you have to change your whole lifestyle for your significant other or anything. Was not saying that at all. I still play some video games. She lets me play. It's okay.
Yes,
It's
hobbies are
all
great.
good.
All right, we are pro hobby people over here. All right, but yeah, no, I got to the point where I was like, all right, when I'm 35, when I'm 45, like, am I gonna be like, man, I'm so proud that I unlocked this camo in Call of Duty. Like, I was like, no, I'm gonna be more proud of the fact that I, did this or did that or spent time with my friends or whatnot. So, whatever. But I definitely love to still dabble, especially if the guys text me like, yo, we're getting on Rocket League or something. I'm trash at Rocket League now,
Rocket League's
especially.
fun.
Back in the day, I was grinding, but no, not anymore. So, well, sweet man, Hunter, thank you for being here. Like I say this every time, talking
Yeah,
to people
man.
is my favorite part of doing this, and it's been great
Super
getting to know
fun.
you. If I always
You as
ask
well.
too, if people were impacted by this and want to get in contact with you, what's the best way to reach you? Made it clear that it's LinkedIn.
Like that.
So I'll have a link to your LinkedIn down in the
Gonna have
description
a
down
hat,
below.
like a LinkedIn hat.
Yeah,
Just
there you
wear it
go.
around.
There you go. Like
Everywhere.
just get a hat with your own profile picture on it. Yeah, right there. That's what you got to do. Like really full of yourself. Just having that. But no, that's all good. Well, sweet man, thanks Hunter for being here, and thank you to you for sticking to end the video. My name's Griffin Lickfeld, the host of the Citizen Developer Channel, Power Talks podcast, and I'm excited to connect with you in the next one.